For the 6th, we'll do invocation and pledge, please.
Father God, we thank you for this day, God. We thank you for continuing to bring us through dangers seen and unseen. We ask you, God, continue to bless this meeting. Bless all the persons that are present. Bless our council. Be with them. Continue to be with their families. Continue to watch over them. We ask you, Lord, as always, to please watch over our first responders. Be with all those who try to make our community a better place to live. God, we ask you to continue. We pray for the persons with Ebola and all the persons who have caught that, and also the persons who are in the United States and also in other countries. Be with them, be by their side. We ask you, God, to continue to heal, save, strengthen, and deliver. God, we also ask you to be with our mayor and all of our officials of our city. Be with our staff that works for our city, Father. And God, as we get ready to go into this meeting, Lord, we ask you to continue to guide us, give us the wisdom we need to make the right decisions, and the decisions that are pleasing in thy sight. We ask it all in the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, Bobby. We have roll call, please.
Councilperson Smith. Councilperson Payne.
Here.
Councilperson Sellers. Here. Council Vice President Gill. Here. Council President Julius.
Here.
Councilperson Glover.
Here.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Let the record reflect 8 council members present, councilpersons Estavny absent.
All right, we'll do approval of the minutes for regular council meeting for September 15th. Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll do the budget workshop for September 23rd minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Budget workshop September 24th minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Budget workshop for September 25th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Workshop for September 29th. Budget workshop.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Yes. I would just like to personally thank on behalf of the council, the city clerk's office. Y'all did a tremendous job of getting all these minutes done. We had a full week with budget workshops and we got them all done, so thank you.
Thank
And
you all.
Amy and Heather as well.
Yes, thank you.
It's a lot of work. All right, we'll do a,
Did you do that?
oh, did we not vote on it? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
Wait a minute.
There's no change, and I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Any Any discussion?
Are we going to table that, or do you want to wait till it comes up?
We'll get there.
Okay. I'll second that, Brian.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Claims to be approved.
There are no changes, I make a motion to approve.
Requesting approval of claims totaling $1,298,440.94.
So moved.
What?
I'm sorry.
I don't know, what did you say?
Oh.
We're talking.
Oh, the total again?
Oh,
It's
okay.
what's on your sheet.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask that we pull on page, remember what page I told you it was?
11.
On page 11, down at the bottom, there's grass cutting, and it's Wecan LLC, and it's for it comes over $6,000 for evidently, I don't know how many months, because it's not written out like our normal grass cutter does it, and it's also to Rick Lovin. So I would like to pull these until we can find out what dates these were done on, because I am assuming that these are for multiple cuts and not one cut, which is what our normal grass cutter does. He puts in, this is the date he cut it, this is what he did, and this is what it's for. And I'd also wonder why Mr. Lovin, who works for the sewer department and is under the mayor, and now he's cutting grass. So I'm just a little confused on all his different duties.
Where's Mr. Levin
And then,
listed
On page 11,
specifically?
We Can LLC,
Was that Mr. Levin's
yes,
business?
it's over $6,000 for 1 month.
and then, is that all you had on that one?
Yeah.
Les, I have under promotion, it just is for the $100 for St. Paul's Episcopal Church, but, huh? What do you, what's the sponsorship for? Just the church in general?
It should be on the function. No ad.
Do you see her?
Was this for the dinner that they had?
St. Paul's,
Didn't they just have a,
they had something there recently.
it was a sausage supper?
No, that's St. Luke's.
St. Luke's.
St. Paul's.
Did they send a letter, or did they just request it over the phone?
It should be attached. I mean,
Well, there's an invoice, but it doesn't say,
No, there's no invoice. Well, it just, for the $100, but it just says
There's
no
no
ad
invoice
needed.
on it.
It just says, it says no ad sponsors.
St. Paul's presents Mark Twain.
oh, what?
There's a flyer up on the hall upstairs. They're having a presentation of someone presenting something on Mark Twain.
Okay.
So is it like a table sponsorship?
No,
or-
it's just a sponsorship for the event for, you have money to put on the event for Mark Twain. There's no ad.
Les, you know, when our business does that, we ask for a copy of whatever flyer or whatever so that we can attach that to it. So that if we get audited, you'll have to be tracking all this stuff down.
I know you all get your packets on Thursday. Phone call or email prior to the Monday meeting I can have.
Well, but as you,
Well, we were here on Friday, but nobody was here.
Again, it should, there are procedures. If the finance department does not believe that's satisfied, it should never get in front of the council. When it
Agreed.
gets in
Well, it
front of the
doesn't-
council,
it-
a question, if there's a question about it, instead of waiting for tonight, a phone call or an email to me, it could be clarified with full claim.
Well, Friday we were here and we went through it. There was nobody here Friday. Heather was here, but there was no one in, very few people in the mayor's office.
Like email and cell phone.
That's true, but
There's-
but in our ordinance, we also state that we need to have something else besides this. So if there's a letter,
Just pull it
yeah.
out. Just pull it, and this is the same, and this, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the same ordinance that applies to the mayor's promotional budget, but does not apply to the city council.
No, it applies to all,
I don't know if we've,
Read your ordinance. Your ordinance only deals with the mayor's promotional budget, not the city council.
yeah, we
yeah,
have to
because it
amend
should be,
that.
because we've been following it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have
we've been following it.
we need to amend that.
a couple questions. Do you still have questions?
No, we're done.
On, Amy?
Yes.
Page 1, under police, 4 or 5 down, it's the, for security pros, bridge surveillance and cameras. Did we talk about that going to redevelopment, or did we not?
I called the chief on Friday. He did answer. So, it wasn't broke out.
Okay.
So he had said, go ahead and leave this one in my budget, and he will make sure that the next month that he's going to contact Security Pros and make sure it's broken
Okay.
out. There was no way we could
I
separate
just knew
it.
we talked about that during budgets.
We did, and I called, while we were going over the claims, I called the chief.
And then on page 15, under Lloyd, under the debt payment, police debt payment, I've been requested to request that that be pulled, the 250,000. Because that is, has not been an agreement made that we will pay for that. It's officially redevelopment, and we can talk to them about that, but request that we pull that.
Which one was that? What was
The-
the one?
Page 15,
15, Lloyd Police, debt payment, $250,000. That's all I have.
Amy, have you got a new total?
not yet.
So we're pulling the, We Can LIC, grass cutting, St. Luke's, and the Fleet Lloyd, is that the three things we're pulling?
It's actually St. Paul's. But if there's a program, if we get that program, then we'll,
I've got $1,042,000.
Oh, he's got it right here.
Let the record reflect. There's the-
That's what you asked for.
that's what I asked
That's why you
for.
asked.
Thank you.
So add it back on.
St. Paul's.
Okay.
yeah.
So it's $1,042,330.94.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Report of the clerk.
None at this time, sir.
Unfinished business, Mr. Lewis, 2014 OR 47. An ordinance authorizing fees and for various Parks Department events, programs, facilities, and merchandise.
Yes, I was not at your last meeting. I was out of town, so I'm not sure what action occurred on this at the last meeting.
Tabled it
Tabled it.
till you were here.
Okay.
I have a question about it,
Yeah.
when you're ready.
Yeah.
Do we need to include booth rental in this? What we charge the vendors? I think at Thunder, we've included that in a,
It's here.
oh, does it?
First,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it's there because it varies depending upon the event. Those are the fees that were
Oh, I
given to me
see.
by Paul. Yeah.
And I was asked to ask about something else, but this might not be the right ordinance for it. What about insurance? The safety director spoke to me.
Yeah, this is just fees. Yeah, that's something like if you have a contract with a vendor. Is that what you're talking about, the having liability
It would have
insurance?
to be in-
Yeah, this is just simply authorizing fees to be charged. If I do recollect, I wasn't at the last meeting, but the meeting before that, I think when this was introduced, I know there were some questions about the lighters that they were talking about, that we were questioning whether we should do that or not for insurance reasons, the lighters or the lanterns. Like I said, I was not at the last meeting, so I don't know if anything was decided upon that.
Well, we're not having that event, so we can strike those from this.
The lanterns and the lighters?
No, right, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Scott, does this just authorize the fees, but before they're imposed, do they have to come back before the council before they're imposed?
No, that's the point of this. It authorizes the Parks Department to charge these fees, because most of these fees, my understanding, these aren't new fees. This is what they have been doing for the last several years, and there's never been basically what we call an enabling ordinance authorizing the fees. That's the State Board of Accounts requirement. When city charges fees, you need to have what's called an enabling ordinance to authorize it. So these fees were not created by me. These were sent to me when I prepared it from Paul Northrum, and he said these are the fees that are either in existence or fees that were talked about for the upcoming Steamboat Days, but everything else are already in existence. They've just never been authorized by an ordinance, so.
We passed this on.
No, I think we tabled it.
We passed it just on the first reading, correct?
I didn't think
And then we
did.
tabled it.
Yep.
Am I
Well, yeah, I wasn't at the September 15th meeting, so I don't know what you all did at the September 15th meeting.
yeah, we passed on the first.
I'll make the motion that we pass it on ordinance number 2014 OR 47 on second and third readings.
Well, second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
All right, thanks.
Amy Deering, an ordinance of appropriation.
We'll need to open up a public hearing for this
We'll open the public hearing. Is anybody here to speak for or against this issue? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
There was some discussion going on today. Were we going to table this until the police have their
It's just-
SOPs?
Is this just a one reading additional?
It was approved on first reading.
It's on the first.
So do we want to table or pass on the second? I'm not in favor of passing on all three, or the
Right.
final two. Just think there's some more
Well, we
concerns to
take
be.
the same time either
hammered
way,
out.
because we can always pass on second
And
and third
I
readings
just
next
had a
time.
question. This is on the 40,286?
Yeah.
Is that, make sure I'm on the, got my right
Body
page here.
cameras.
The body cameras. The, under Lloyd, where we're appropriating additional dollars, and two funds, the police have a little over $52,000. They have $27,000 in equipment, and then $25,000 in leftover vehicles after they purchase their vehicles. And if we're not going to vote on it, it doesn't really matter, but just for us to consider, typically before we appropriate additional money into one of their funds, if they have money in, we let them spend that money and then come back when they need to appropriate more.
Have they
For
taken
some
the
reason, it
delivery?
seems like she was going to be using that money for something. I can't remember what it was. if
Heather,
it was
do you
fast
remember?
or-
Amy, do
The
you-
25,000
It came up
sounds
that
about
night
right
when they
for
requested it.
one more vehicle. I don't know if they've taken delivery on all of their vehicles for the year yet. So that'd be something to check before we reappropriate.
And
that
we've
money.
got time to look at that. So,
I make a motion to table.
Second.
all right.
Discussion real quick before you go on it. Amy, do you mind to check those two, the police equipment, Lloyd police equipment, and the police vehicle?
Okay.
And if we don't have an outstanding vehicle that's ordered that's owed, before we appropriate additional dollars, let's spin this down first.
Okay. So do you want this to be on the next meeting? So I'll have to re-advertise it again? Or
How many days do you have to re-advertise?
it has to be 10 days prior?
Why don't you get a heads up from the police, see if they're ready?
Okay.
Means there's no point in putting it back on if they're not ready.
Yeah.
So,
Alrighty.
We gotta vote.
All in favor of tabling?
have we got a first and a second?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Sorry, gang, didn't hear that. Amy Deering, 2014
You might as well just...
OR 49, an ordinance transferring certain funds within the same department. Passed on the first reading, 9/15/14.
No changes from the last meeting?
Is this a public hearing?
No.
I make
Oh,
a
I'm not-
motion to approve on ordinance 2014 OR 49 on the first and second reading.
I'll second that.
It's actually would be the
Second
It'd
and
be
third.
second.
Oh, second and third, sorry, I didn't realize we'd already passed it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Les, are you doing Rob's?
Yes.
Hold on, jumped ahead here, hold on. This is in reference to an abatement for Heartland. It comes in front of you upon a favorable recommendation of the Redevelopment Commission for Heartland Payment Systems. They are expanding their operation here in Jeffersonville. It's a fast-growing company. And here to speak on behalf of the request for the abatement is Matt Hall from, I believe Matt's here. Yep. Matt's here from One Southern Indiana, and also I believe there's a representative from Heartland, Mr. Jeff Compton. So I will turn the podium over to those two individuals, and they can discuss the specifics in reference to the abatement.
Thank you, Les. As Les said, I'm Matt Hall with One Southern Indiana, and I'm here on behalf of Heartland Payment Systems in Jeffersonville. I think some of you had the opportunity to tour Heartland recently, and you see what a phenomenal facility and employer they are here. Heartland currently has approximately 840 employees at their facility in Jeffersonville, with an annual payroll of over $38.4 million. We are here because they would like to add 74 additional positions at this facility and expand their space or do building improvements. They would like to invest approximately $835,000 in building improvements and $7.5 million in personal property or equipment. We are respectfully requesting the council support for a 5-year tax abatement for their $7.5 million investment in personal property and a 10-year tax abatement for their $835,000 investment in building improvements. I ran this particular project through an economic impact model that we have available to us, and I can tell you that this, in addition to the 74 primary jobs that will be created by this position, there will be an additional 11 positions created in this consumer market and 9 positions created in the supplier market, bringing a total of 94 new positions and additional payroll of $7.1 million. Household spending supported by this project would be $6.1 million. So in addition to the initial impact, there will be what we call the ripple effect on this project. Jeff Compton is here to answer any questions you have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have as well.
Thank you for the tour that we
You're
had
welcome.
a couple months ago. It was awesome. And I'm glad that you're able to expand.
Resolution number on that.
Motion to approve.
Passed 2014 L19.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Les, zoning map for 835 Spring and 809 Spring.
This is another item that comes before you. This one comes from the Planning Commission upon a favorable recommendation for a request for rezoning of certain property on Spring Street. Specifically, you all will be very familiar with it. It is the infamous industrial nightmare. So I will turn the podium over to Alan Applegate, who's representing the applicant for the rezoning, which is New Hope. So, and Alan promises that he will be as quick as possible, right, Alan? I know it's hard for you to do it, but I'm not sure. Promise. Beat up. This is for the record. Just see if that's, doesn't seem like it's on. There it is, okay. This is,
Hey, Scott, is there any public comment to speak on this?
It's on a paragraph.
No, I was just asking if there was.
Papers now.
Okay.
Sign it.
Okay.
thanks. Does that go before or go ahead and start? Alan Applegate with Applegate Pfeiffer Pulliam on behalf of the applicant New Hope Services. I also have members of New Hope Services here to answer questions if you have any after my hopefully brief presentation. It's the New Hope has sought rezoning of what is now known as the industrial nightmare, but we call the M. Fine building, from its existing C2 district classification to DC, which is downtown commercial, to develop a senior housing project offering some commercial amenities for residents of the property and the public at large. It's currently under New Hope is currently under a verbal option to purchase the property from DT Ventures. It's situated at the corner of Spring and 9th. And a majority of the property to the east is Zone C1, with a portion of the property to the west of the subject property being Old City residential. Of the Old City residential properties, many of these were acquired by the City of Jeffersonville for flood mitigation. I believe there may have been grant monies for the flood mitigation. Some of that property needs to be kept eternally green or something like that, but it's close to that project. Obviously, New Hope Services is a not-for-profit corporation in operation since '59, providing most of the human services in this area. And
I feel like it does a great job of it. Particularly with regard to elderly, it provides companionship services, home care services, nursing services, and personal services as outlined in the materials I've tendered. This is an overhead of their website indicating these are the particular elder care services offered. Additionally, New Hope is the owner and operator of Willow Trace down on Spring Street, which is a senior living center, as well as Aberdeen Woods, which is a 20-unit senior living community near Allison Lane and Jeffersonville, Allison Lane and Jeffersonville High School. This is a picture of the Aberdeen Woods property. It's kind of off to the east of Allison Lane, tucked back, and actually New Hope has obtained additional funds to build additional units similar to those, which they're moving forward in 2014. Additionally, New Hope has, in all, has 7 multifamily residential communities throughout the state, and this is one that I like to treat similar to the M5 building. This was a theater, formerly Palace Theater in Wabash. So this is now single-family senior quarters. I'm not sure that's senior or I think it's traditional multifamily. I'm sorry.
We're going to prove something on that picture. I wouldn't approve it. That picture's horrible.
That's what people say when they take my picture. The applicant proposes to develop the property in one project containing in the area of 51 units for ages 55 and above. I will note for the record that I'm 53, so if there's aspersions going to be cast soon, I'm very close to that, and I promise not to get too upset, but I might clench my fist a little bit. So in 2 years, I'll qualify for this particular project. At this point, the cost is, we've estimated the cost at $9 million of rehabilitation costs, but we believe those costs will be in excess of that. This is a rendering of, and we don't have any final renderings. That's been a kind of a process, and will continue to be a process. But this is the third version. That does not do it justice. I'm going to pass that.
We've got one.
They've got them now.
Alan, which direction is that looking?
We're on Spring Street.
That's coming down Spring. 9th is
Spring to the west?
Spring to the
The
what?
entrance is looking straight out on Spring Street.
Look at our store and the other building that tore down.
Spring Street, okay.
To help give a bearing, that rendering is this. You'd be driving down Spring, and then you would hopefully see something like that. This would be the commercial component, the diagonal that breaks up the rectangular version or rectangular scale of the building. And there are floor plans and whatnot, but suffice it to say it's residential in the building proper, and this being commercial, and this hopefully being reception area, meeting, offices, etc. There's obviously been flooding problems there in the past. We've met with outside engineers for the City of Jeff. This is the Gateway Roadway Improvements overall site plan of the CSO. You can see that this will ultimately be a cul-de-sac here. So the rear of the property will be protected from through traffic. Prospective traffic light here, this is 9th. And interceptor improvements, I believe, that are coming down here. I'm not an engineer and won't profess to be. But we've, met with them, and we believe that the improvements for this project, at least for the drainage, stormwater drainage, and our subject property would coincide. So we would not be waiting for those improvements and have, potential flood problems, at least on the first, I believe there's maybe 2 or 3 components of the CSO.
You're not talking about the interceptor, are you?
I'm,
They're helping with the problem?
Well, but he's talking about the first phase that they're talking about putting into the 10th and Spring section, that redevelopment said they would pay for. That's what he's talking about.
I'm not, if we need to have more information on that, I will get it, but when we met with representatives of Jacoby Tombs and Lands, and I didn't write copious notes, I have not prepared him, so he's not, but when I didn't meet with Jorge, so I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Oh, he's laughing.
But I believe that there's maybe gone out for bids or quotes or something, the first phase of a multi-phase project, and the first phase would help alleviate this particular area and stormwater management of that area.
And I thought they were just putting that in because of the building that would go in that 10th Street. I didn't think it was actually going to be connected. They just want to get that done so they could build on it. Yeah, they're just putting the pipes in. It's not connecting to anything right at the moment.
We understand that, but I believe that it's also a buried vault system would be a portion that is done. We've also met with the owner, who said that since that terrible storm in 2009, I'm sorry, that they have not had water in the building. They have made some improvements to the outside edge of the building and had water since that terrible storm downtown and
But we
flood.
haven't had that much rain.
Right.
Correct. I don't think, and we hadn't.
Improvements, Alan, was the 7th and Ohio Avenue, where they built a retaining wall and actually collected the water off the bales and sent it to...
Sent in a different direction.
Yeah.
3 years ago.
And there has not been water in the building in that 3 years. Suffice it to say, though, before there would be the expenditure of $9 to $10 million in this project, we would time it so that there would be no concern of flooding in that area. And obviously, I was bringing it up to say that we've already attempted to communicate with the city and working through the mitigation aspects so we can time it properly and not be there before the necessary improvements are there.
The only thing I think we're saying, Alan, is that we don't, if there was flooding and that project didn't get done, that CSO part of it, for any reason, that it doesn't come back on the city.
I believe that New Hope is certainly aware of that and
understand.
clear on that.
I just wanted that to be said.
Thank you. There was a C2 classification. We've sought DC, which says that it's to be compatible with R3, M1, and M2 residential, OC and C1 commercial districts. Again, we have C1 across from Spring Street and our Old City residential behind the project, with R3, the apartment project, here being close by. The Plan Commission unanimously favorably recommended the zone change in its September 30th meeting. Since the DC district does not allow for residential on the first floor, we sought a variance from that to allow residential on the first floor, which the BZA granted likewise on September 30th, subject to your council's approval of the rezoning. There's a severe shortage of affordable residential housings for seniors in Jeffersonville and frankly everywhere. Obviously, this project is intended to address it, and we believe that it's exactly the type envisioned by your recently enacted housing element of your comprehensive plan. One of our jobs is to show that this project is in compliance or does not conflict with the comprehensive plan, and we think rather than conflict, it melds perfectly with it. And also importantly, the property, this subject property, is very close to New Hope's main offices. So of all of the services that they provide, of which there are many, it's not next door, but pretty close to literally next door. So we believe that those services will be delivered in even a better capacity to a much needed sector of our community. And finally, the zoning classification, it would, allow the redevelopment of what, is a giant, difficult property with which to both look at and contend with. It's a 50,000 square feet, hulking industrial type building, to housing for a necessary sector of our community, who I believe will be Jeffersonville residents who will come and spend their money on the other things that are happening in downtown Jeffersonville. It makes it within walking distance. They're obviously close to the hospital, pharmacies, New Hope again. We believe that this is a perfect match. So with that, I would ask that you all approve the rezoning request.
Public comment. If there's anybody here to speak, and I've got a list. Jody, you want to? No? John? Nope. Jim? We knew you couldn't pass that.
Well, Alan summed it up pretty well. I don't have much to say. I think the project speaks for itself. I think you see the third iteration of the rendering from today, and the addition of the commercial space, and the looks of the building have been softened substantially, and it doesn't look like a correctional facility like it did in the first and second iterations. It's a hard building to work with from an exterior design standpoint, and I think the architects have really done a good job. Wayne Estopanol was he was really an integral part of making suggestions to the architects who are actually doing it. His suggestions are reflected in this third iteration. But more importantly, this project will positively impact 51 seniors, or maybe more, because we're going to have two bedrooms and one bedroom. So it can impact even more. And we've got 68 people on a waiting list right now, 68 seniors waiting for quality, affordable housing. Even with a $1.4 million addition at Aberdeen Woods, we're only going to add 10 units. The waiting list still is at 58. And actually, I'll be honest, I haven't checked the waiting list this week. It might be over 70 now. I don't know. But this is not a problem of just Jeffersonville's. This is a problem in every community where we have housing. It's just the market is flooded with need for seniors, and we hope to be able to do something about that with this project. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay. All right. We've got Marty Chalfant to speak. We'll open this up to a public hearing, and I know Marty's here to speak for it or against it.
My name is Marty Chalfant, and I live at 2304 St. Andrews Road. It has been my privilege to work with New Hope Services on their housing and grant projects. I have worked with Mr. Applegate and his firm on behalf of New Hope. He is a fine lawyer who has represented my family on numerous occasions. As the father of a mentally disabled daughter and another in a wheelchair, I support the mission of New Hope and consider the people who work there my friends. However, sometimes friends disagree. My concern here is not New Hope. It is the low-income housing tax credit program they are using to help fund the project, and the negative impact that program will have on our community. The Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program, or LIHTC, is a federal housing subsidy designed to promote private development of low-income family housing. It is often referred to as the Section 42 program because that is the applicable section in the IRS code. There are two major characteristics of Section 42 low-income housing projects that I humbly ask you to consider in your decision. The first one is a deed restriction. Section 42 projects require a lien and extended use agreement, sometimes referred to as a LURA. It is a deed restriction that locks in the use as a low-income housing project for 30 to 40 years and requires owners to commit to occupancy and rent restrictions. If the property is sold, the LURA remains. The LURA takes the zoning decisions out of the local community and gives them to a state agency for up to 40 years. Grant programs for low-income housing also have the same type of deed restrictions. The second issue is property taxes. Indiana state statute allows Section 42 property taxes to be calculated based on the low-income rents of the projects. Conversely, if you own a home or rental property, your tax is figured from the higher market value of the property. As the chart in your package illustrates, LIHTC projects pay significantly lower property taxes than other non-subsidized housing with similar rent and tenants. Low-income tax credit projects pay roughly 20% of that paid by any other apartment project. Now, taxes always change and the amount on the chart may vary slightly, but because of the deed restriction, Section 42 projects always limit the property tax revenue while not keeping pace with the increased cost of services to the community. It has been suggested that the method of funding should not be considered in your decision. I submit that if the financing structure of a rezoning request includes state mandates that negatively impact the fiscal health and welfare of our community, it must be considered. If we know prior to making a decision that citizens will have no say about the use of a piece of property in downtown for the next 40 years, and the project's annual tax revenue will not keep pace with the city's increased cost of services, shouldn't that be a major component of our decision? It has also been suggested there is a need for low-income housing in our community. While that may or may not be true, I believe the question we need to ask as a community is, are vibrant downtowns anchored by Section 42 developments? I know this is a very difficult decision. New Hope is a fine organization. But take New Hope out of the equation. If the applicant was a private Section 42 income housing developer from Indianapolis or Louisville, and you knew they wanted to rezone their property to fix their use and property taxes for 40 years, would we want it? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Laura.
Oh, sure.
Anybody else here to speak? Jim, we'll get to you in just a minute. Anybody else here to speak for or against this? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Jim?
Yeah, I'd like to address a couple of things that Mr. Chalfant said. First of all, it's not 30 to 40 years of restrictions, it's 15 years. At the end of 15 years, there are several things that can be done that will change the designation of the property, or that can change the designation of the property. The only requirement is the first 15 years. It's called the affordability period. That's number one. Number two, currently, the current owner of that building is paying $8,601 per year in property taxes. I met with the county assessor today, and we did an estimation of property taxes on that building at the lower rate of $9 million, not at $10 million, and using an income approach. And we determined that the property taxes on that building are going to be somewhere between $17,000 and $20,000 a year. So over twice what's being paid on the building now. Although Mr. Chalfant makes this look very gloomy and doomed and so on and so forth, you know, I would not come to you and bring a large multifamily tax credit project for the city of Jeffersonville, because they are not good things. We've kept all of our projects small. We kept all of our projects so that we can manage them and maintain them. And I can also tell you, and services on the city, we've got 2 senior affordable housing projects in the city right now, 56 units, and I don't think we've had a police run on either one of them. I don't think we've had any kinds of fire runs or police runs to those 2 properties, and there have been no problems whatsoever. That's the reality of the situation. Our properties are managed and well-maintained. And I think I told you guys last time, we employed detective of the Jeffersonville Police Department 20 hours a week to provide security to all of our properties. And we do that even at the senior properties because it makes the seniors feel, it makes them feel better. They feel more secure as a result of that. But he's not there because of the problems on those properties. He's there to listen to the seniors and make them feel more comfortable where they live. Anybody else has any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, I do. On this paper that he gave us, it talks about specifically, I don't know what these acronyms stand for, so I'm just going to have to read them.
Okay.
The IHCDA,
Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority.
okay, requires that the use restrictions remain in force and effect for the entire period required by the IRS, the allocation plan, and any extended use period selected by the owner. So after you comply with the 15 years, you can get an extended use period for another 15 years. So
Right.
so does that have to come back to the city, or is
No,
it just solely
no.
your decision?
No, or we can try to go on the open market and try to sell it. And that's, these projects, for the most part, are relatively new, and there haven't been a lot of these projects that have completed their 15-year affordability period. So, you know, we're trying to figure out all the options we have available to us at the end of 15 years. But Willow Trace is an example. That's a tax credit project, 15-year affordability period. It's currently in its 12th year. We've got one up in Scottsburg that actually hits its 15-year period in December of 2015. So that'll be the very first one that we've had to deal with.
Okay.
But market, you know, it's a tough situation when you get into some areas that in trying to go from market rate or from tax credit properties with affordable rents to market rate rents. Oftentimes there's negligible difference in the amount of the rents between the two. Thank you.
Outside of this project and outside of this grant, where does New Hope get most of its funding?
We have about 20 state contracts that we provide services. We provided services to 13,500 clients last year in 14 counties. Our budget this year is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of probably $12 million. Of that $12 million, maybe $1.5 million, $1.6 million, $1.7 million is going to be from housing. The rest of it's going to be from services.
And I'm not denying, because I've seen the projects that you have, like on Spring Street, or it's a very nice project.
Thank you.
And I know the one in Aberdeen, did that used to be owned by Bob Lynn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so you all purchased that?
We purchased, we've got 10, that's a duplex project.
Right.
We've got 10 duplexes now. We're getting ready to build 5 more.
When did you purchase that from him?
We've purchased the first 5 lots in 2011, I believe it was. And then we've added, this will be the 3rd phase, and then phase 4 will complete the project. That's our goal, is to get 20 duplexes in there.
Okay. Then I want to bring this up. And the reason I'm bringing up some of this stuff, it's not because I don't like New Hope. I do. I think they do an awesome job. But I know that management changes, and I used to work in code enforcement, and I know that when you have rentals, it's only as good as the person in charge at the top.
I agree.
So, and you've done a wonderful job, but what happens after you leave?
She's sitting right there.
Okay, but I don't know her.
Okay, that's
And
Jody
And
Kitch.
I've not been involved with what she's done. I know what you've done, but let me read this.
Okay.
It says, neither the owner nor representative acting on behalf of the owner shall, during the extended use period or the 3-year period immediately following termination of this agreement as provided herein, evict or terminate the tenancy of an existing tenant other than for good cause. And I also know that good cause can be anything. I mean, depending how it's defined by the state, the eviction notices. Or increase the gross rent with respect to any unit not otherwise permitted under Section 42. So let's say your extended use period is up. Let's say you go to 30 years and that's up. And then you got to wait 3 years. You've got some tenants that are questionable, or maybe you want to sell it. Maybe someone wants to do high-end residences there and they want to evict it. They can't do anything for another 3 years. Is that what I'm reading?
That's not the way we interpret that, no.
Well, this is Is this taken right from their code, Marty, or did you write this? It's, this is, yeah, this is right off their section, so that's my concern.
How do you all interpret that then?
Well, we interpreted that after the first 15-year affordability period, that we can petition to end affordability and try to put it on the market for sale. John and I have been to one conference just on that subject. Jody just got finished with one last week.
But this specifically says during the extended use period, so it's talking about after the 15 years.
Mhm.
It's talking about the years after that. So it's not after the first 15, it's after the extended, whether it's the 20, because you can go up 20 years or 25 years, which would make it 40 years, or the 15 years. That's what it specifically says.
So,
That's
and-
my concern, because that's a vibrant area downtown, and what happens if we have a developer who comes in and decides, after your 15 years or whatever, and they want to make it high-end, we would lose them.
It
Well-
can be bought out, from what I understood.
Yes. And let me also suggest something to you. I think the design we have on that building makes it pretty high-end right now.
I'm sorry?
I said, I think that the design we have on that building makes it pretty high-end right now. I don't think you're going to find, to think, I've had numerous discussions with Wayne Stolpenall and others in terms of the likelihood of a developer coming into Jeffersonville and being willing to put $9 to $10 million into the industrial nightmare. And I personally don't think that's going to happen.
The only homework I've done on this is I looked at the tax rate, what they're paying now, and what it would generate. It is about 2 times, which we'd like to get more than that, I understand. The problem that I have, not problem, but in developing this property, at $140 a square foot, nobody can come in and borrow that money in cash flow. So you're going to have some subsidies to come in here and make this thing work, if you're going to develop it. Or for the extended period, you need to leave it with what it is today.
Yeah, we're not asking for tax abatement.
No,
I'm just saying, we're not asking for it. We can.
Well, it's kind of like a tax abatement to us, because we're getting a reduced revenue.
Well, you're getting over 2 times what you're getting now.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is, I don't think a developer could come in here and buy the building and cash flow it. I just don't. That's my only private developer.
Can I make a comment on your concern, because you're worried about after the 15 years and what I'm hearing you say?
Or 30 years.
Or 30
whatever.
years. Well, unfortunately, I've got to work at least 30 more years, and probably at New Hope. So I've been a citizen of Jeffersonville and Southern Indiana most of my whole life, and New Hope is vested in the community, and so am I. And it's just my word, but we would never just sell the property for something that wouldn't benefit the city. We have to live here, we have to work here, we've got to work with whoever's going to be city officials at that time, and we would work with the city on those decisions. And it would still, whatever we do, generally goes with our mission and vision statement, and this is under that. And we are a nonprofit, mission-based, we wouldn't just go for a profit and run away and think we were going to save face in our own community.
And this is part of, it's not, I know what people have come up to me and said.
Sure.
And part of it's low-income housing, because they see so many areas throughout the city, low-income housing starts off nice, and then it becomes not a very nice area.
Sure. And I think a lot of people...
I think that is the concerns.
Sure.
And like I said, I've seen the ones that you've done, and they're very nice, and they have been kept up very well. Sure. I've not seen anyone, I don't know if anybody else can say that, where it has...
We manage those. We have a property management company that's the corporate office is out of Knoxville, Tennessee. We've fired 5 property management companies since 2000. We're very, very particular about what the properties look like. All of our senior managers drive through our local properties on a regular basis, and we have zero tolerance on the tenants. They either abide by the rules or they're gone, they're evicted. We do not put up with anything. We're not lackadaisical in that regards, and I can assure you of that.
Yeah, and the rent is based on area median income. So it's not, a housing project, a Section 8 project, and I know a lot of people get those confused.
And I don't particularly like to, I prefer to refer to it as quality affordable housing versus low-income housing. And I think all you've got to do is look at the properties we've already have in place and had in place in this city for 10 years or more.
Real quick, just a quick question on this. You say you've got a waiting list of
68
people. Are those currently Jeffersonville residents?
Yep, they're all Jeffersonville.
And where are they at now?
I couldn't tell you that. I just know that they've come in and filled out applications.
Okay.
And some of them have actually been income verified. The first 10 on that list were income verified for the 10 units we're getting ready to build at Aberdeen. So, and that list just it grows constantly. The property manager keeps the list.
If it helps you too, for a one-bedroom, rent will be $358 to $717 for one bedroom. That's anywhere from 30 to 60% AMI, area median income.
So 717 for a one-bedroom unit is probably 60% AMI is what I'm going to guess. That's pretty substantial rents for a one-bedroom unit in Jeffersonville, Indiana.
One thing I'd like to say, I think I went to the meetings only and all that is, and a lot of these questions were asked, so I mean, I think everybody has the same concerns everybody here has. One thing about New Hope, and I want to kind of differentiate, be a little bit different between the New Hope and somebody from out of Indianapolis. An Indianapolis firm, they would come in here with tax credits to build a project and leave. Where New Hope uses the same tax credits and they will stay here. Now the projects they have currently, and some of them off Allison's Lane, some of them off Spring Street Dutch Lane, that are some of them are hitting 12 years old. They're nice properties. Now, I mean, I would be more concerned about a hotel than this. But that being said, I think their track record's good. There's no guarantee of anything. But I think their track record's good on their properties, and they are local, and that's huge versus somebody coming in. So.
Well, and I guess my point is that when you look at that property, it's been there for umpteen years, and there's not been any movement on it recently. If we've got a tenant that's going to come in and make a $9 million investment in the property, that's more than we've had so far.
And if you want to know, I mean, I'm sure Mr. Bosley can give you a map and go look at their properties. Some of them's 10, 12 years old, and you can look at the upkeep. I mean, they're nice.
There.
And they've got some time on them where, maybe the roof half wore out or the gutters. I mean, they've had some damage, and they don't last long, the damage, until it's repaired, replaced, or painted, or whatever.
I'll make a motion to approve 2014 OR 50.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
What was the ordinance number?
50.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
Let's see. Nathan?
A meeting or so ago, we had a representative from LifeSpring come, Ms. Beth Keeney, and discuss a little bit about an idea they were looking to getting into, and they were requesting a letter of recommendation from the council. After that meeting, I was contacted by Ms. Lori Harris from the Family Health Centers of Southern Indiana, and said she'd like to at least share some information. Since that time, Ms. Keeney and LifeSpring has withdrawn their letter of request from us, so that's not even on the table at all. And I shared with them that we didn't want to pick one agency over another local agency, and at that time. So, in following up with Ms. Harris, I just told her I would allow her to come, we put her on the agenda, let her speak for a couple minutes and update us on their activities.
Good evening. I did prepare a packet, a little bit of information, just generally about
federally qualified health centers.
We can pass them down if you want, so you don't have to.
Thank you for letting me take a few moments of your time. We have been in the community for 22 years as a community health center. About 4 years ago, some state, local leaders got together and said, what are we going to do about the uninsured in our community? How are we going to get them health care? This is a problem we need to address. So some local agencies, as well as some churches, Clark Memorial Hospital, civic leaders got together and they formed what when we opened was a volunteer agency a couple of nights a week. And we grew from there. We obtained state funding. We became the first nurse-managed clinic in Indiana as a pilot project with the Indiana State Department of Health. And then we were able to obtain federal funding. 2006, I think, was the first round that we obtained the federal funding. And with the federal funding, that allowed us to purchase the Snotter building, and that's where we're at now. And we also have 3 other locations. We have a satellite in Charlestown, Indiana, as well as New Albany, and then one in Harrison County. So we've been the federally qualified health center in the area for many years. With the Affordable Care Act, it brought about some funding to expand federally qualified health centers across the nation. And so with that, we're seeing a surge of other nonprofits want to apply and become federally qualified. And generally what the Health Resources Service Administration, who administers our grants, what they do is they look at high need areas, uninsured, low income, waiting lists, that sort of thing. So with that, we've had numerous sort of agencies also apply for the same funding that we have. With that, though, we look at service area, and we've been in the service area for over 22 years doing our job. We don't, take out ads in the paper. We don't hire contractors. We don't kind of advertise a lot about what we do. We just focus on doing our job, taking care of the uninsured and low income in our community. So I did contact Mr. Samuel just because I want the city to be aware of who we are, what we do, what we don't do, and how critical federal funding is to us and what it means to us. In the coming year, there is a page in there that talks about how federal funding is potentially going to be decreased by 70% in the next fiscal year. We were, of course, affected by the sequester to a degree. We had a little bit of a trust fund that was set up for us in the Affordable Care Act to protect us from the severity of the sequester cuts in the federal budget a few years ago. However, those cuts will be enacted. The sort of grace period will be expiring for us, and we're looking nationwide, the 1,200 health centers nationwide, at a 70% reduction in federal funding. So that's why it just concerns me, any other agency wanting to sort of jump on the bandwagon for federal funding, because if we were to be cut or another agency compete for the same funding that we have, it would be devastating. We serve approximately 4,000 patients and 15,000 visits a year, and that is a small degree compared to some of the other social service agencies in the area. However, when we were founded, we sort of made an agreement with the local physicians in the area. We're not going to compete with you for Medicaid, Medicare, private insurance patients. Our mission is for uninsured, and we hold that true to today. Over 85% of our patients are uninsured, low income. We are mandated by our grants to take a little bit of Medicare and Medicaid, about 5 to 7% Medicaid, Medicare. And with that, we receive a special payment rate called the PPS rate, prospective payment rate, for Medicaid. What that means is we have a set rate. It doesn't matter if my doctor spends an hour with a patient or spends 15 minutes with the patient. We don't get to bill what they call adjustments or adjusters, like a private doctor's office does. So we get a flat rate no matter what we do for that patient. So people from
sometimes mistakenly think that, oh, health centers are just getting rich from this Medicaid, right? That's not true. And then, of course, and statewide, too, we're a little bit different because most health centers take about 35 to 40% Medicaid patients. We don't because, again, at the beginning, we spoke with Clark Physician Group, well, before it became Clark Physician Group, community medical associates, the local primary care physicians, and we said, we need your help to make this happen. So in order to do that, we're not going to try to compete with you for the paying patients. We'll take the uninsured if you'll help us out and take referrals and help us. And that's worked for 22 years. And we're very fortunate because the specialty doctors in the area, the other social service agencies in the area, they help us. They take referrals for the uninsured, non-paying patients, and we work collaboratively with them. We don't try to compete with them, so to speak. So, and LifeSprings is one of those agencies. I mean, we're very grateful for the referrals for the mental health programs. Just to make the city council members aware of who we are, that we're there. We're taking care of the population at need. We are not perfect. We don't claim to be. We don't meet everybody, every uninsured person in the area. But we feel that for the past 22 years, we've done a pretty good job at taking care of our citizens, and we want to grow and we want to get bigger. In fact, I recently obtained another $200,000 in federal funding in order to expand our services. We have dental, primary care, outreach, navigation. We help people try to enroll in Medicaid or enroll in Affordable Care Act plans. And so we provide referrals as well to different specialties. So we've been there, and in order to obtain that federal funding, you have to keep your federally qualified status. And so that's what we're looking at right now. Potentially in 3 years, it'll be what's called a service area competition. So that concerns us when other agencies want to obtain this federal funding. We understand LifeSpring's position. We are not, adversarial in any way, shape, or form. But I just wanted to let the council members know that we are there just because we don't advertise or whatever, but we're focusing on our patients. That's always been our goal, our mission. I'm the CEO, but I'm also a nurse. I go down and I give shots and wrap wounds and do that too. And we're in the community. We do outreach. We may not advertise it in the paper or things like that, but we do over 40 hours a week of outreach. But we take care of all patients under 2% of federal poverty, not just homeless, not just migrant, not just a particular group. So we serve everyone and everybody that is low income. So I just wanted to make people aware, and I would love any of the council members would, want to come take a tour and see what we do or volunteer. We take volunteers. We're there, we're open, we're a good neighbor, and we want to be a part of the solution. We know that there's some issues in our community, but we also participate with community needs assessment with Clark Memorial, the other agencies in the community to see what are the pressing issues, the greatest good for the greatest number of our citizens, instead of trying to focus on one small group or the other, because we're a community health center. We treat everybody and everything that comes through our door. So I just wanted to come tonight and just, make everyone aware of who we are and that we're here as your partner, and anything the city might want to do or any initiatives, please call on us, because just because we're not always out there at various things, meetings, etc., doesn't mean that we're not a good neighbor or want to be involved. Again, we just focus on taking care of our patients. Any questions?
Just so you know that I know people, families in particular, that do use this healthcare facility, and I've heard nothing but good. They're treated very well, and we're talking about babies, families. So I just want you to know that they do good work, and there's a lot of families that I know that do get a benefit from this organization.
Thank you.
Good.
I'd be
Thank
interested in a tour, Nathan, if you all coordinate a date and a time and see if we have any participation.
I would love that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Nathan, marina discussion.
Initially tonight, we were going to be asked to vote on our marina, our riverfront project, but that got delayed. And I thought, as a council, we needed to have at least some time for discussion, if anybody wants to discuss, because we don't get together as a full council between meetings. And the information we've been getting is coming fast and furious, I guess I'll say. And so I want to make sure we're on the same page. Just a few comments, just some history for us. Back in November of 2012, we were presented with a list of 9 projects, and Umball had put together a compilation of what the cost of all those projects would be. The initial marina, they had tagged at $700,000. Then a little bit later, we moved that figure to $2.2 million. And then the bids came back at $3.6 million approximately. And now the project is approximately $3 million. So it's kind of bounced back and forth. The project now is about, I'll say, half the project that it was going to be initially, that we were originally looking forward to having, but the cost is prohibitive. There's the current proposal that we have in front of us, and I don't know if we can put it on the screen or the picture. It basically is scaled back due to cost, the initial. There's 14 places for 14 boats, 5 jet skis and or canoes, 40 new parking spaces, an 8-foot stamped concrete walkway for down there, an appropriate seawall that's to protect the erosion, a number of trees, and so forth. Now the boats, the 14 boat slips for 14 boats, I believe those are considered for transient. There's been discussion back and forth, transient versus rental, and it's contrary to what some people think. It's not the council's place to design this marina, this dock, riverfront, but it is our responsibility to be physically responsible. And so I think that's where I'm coming from at this point. And so I know I've been approached by a number of folks, a few folks, that have said they are interested in renting, they want to come back and rent some spots. I will leave that up from my perspective. There's places for boats, and if we need to rent those to them, that'll be between the administration or whoever's responsible for operating that. If it winds up being parks, then we'll address it in parks. But we can determine that, whether they're transient, being just visitors coming up and having a place where they don't pay anything, they just use it for the evening or whatever, versus renting for the summer or for the season. It's my intention at our next meeting to come back with a resolution that shows support from the council. I do believe the entire council is very supportive of having a great project down there. But it's my intention to come back at our next meeting and with some type of parameters for the project, so we know what our fiscal responsibility is going to be on that project. As I mentioned, it's bounced back and forth. I think we're getting pretty close to what the project is going to be, and I think it's going to be a quality project. But I just wanted to lay some of that background out there and to prepare everybody. And once I'm able to connect with council and others and pull this resolution together, it'll be out there before the meeting. I won't spring it on us at the meeting to vote for it, so nothing like that. But those are some of my thoughts on the marina or the docks and the riverfront project. I want to be real clear. This project does not have a pier, a fishing pier, or a diverting pier like initially we thought. I know there's a lot of folks in the community that's really excited about that. It is not in this project. It can be in phases 2 and 3 maybe if we go along that way. And the number of boat slips and or docks have been reduced because of cost. So that's kind of the major changes. So with that, I will let anybody else that wants to speak. If they don't want to say anything, then we're done with this point. But I just wanted to have an opportunity for the council to collectively have some time to share together before we're asked to vote on something.
I had asked a question, I know to a few council members, and when we got this, the first set of estimates, and we were using the low bid, it looked to me like the cost to build the docks and to dredge was about $1.3 million, if I remember correctly. And in taking these docks out, and really we're putting in, instead of the docks being 20 foot apart, they look to be 40 foot apart with a pole in the middle and the back here. The original plan called for piers between every dock. And I'm just having trouble coming up with how we're only cutting this down about $5 million, or $500,000.
You know, one thing, and we talk about this being a marina project, and that's probably a little deceiving. The marina is very minimal. When I think of marina, I think boats, and that is docked. But realistically, if you look at this project, it really has to do with erosion, roadways. It has to do with that. I mean, marinas sound, I guess when you have 50 docks, you could call it a marina. So that is a little bit of a deceiving term, but a lot of this money, when people look at the docks, the only thing I'm hearing is docks, $3 million. That's not the case. There's a whole lot of erosion protection and fill to prevent and the Riverside Drive now from collapsing, and in some parts it is pretty close to Riverside Drive itself. So a lot of this project is going towards a future of protecting the riverbank. We don't talk about that, because that doesn't sound as, I guess, as pretty as docks, but there is a lot to that.
But it looked to me like, Mike, they were broken down incrementally by bits and pieces. And that's where I was coming off with that. I was just breaking it down into...
A couple of the concerns I went to with, what is it, planning and zoning, or was a couple concerns that was brought up, and I know you all read this, was 150 trees or some number like that, and there was some concern they didn't want all them, squeezed in a 4-block area, and I think they're saying there's a possibility then the number of trees can be spread out along the riverfront. I don't know if that's exactly accurate, but that is the thought of spreading them trees out. And the other thing that was brought up was the actual height of the docks. Now this doesn't show, this particular drawing doesn't show the height of the docks, but because a lot of smaller runabouts, pontoon boats, things like that, will be using this transient, especially will be using these docks. So, and I think that was a concern too. And I think Hora even agreed that they would look at that and make some adjustments if needed to fit that. So.
Okay.
Well, the only thing that I would say is keep in mind, as the city of Jeff is fortunate in the fact that you have 3 gateways into your city, whereas most have 1. We have roads that lead in, we have a bridge as a walkway, and then you have the river, the waterfront. So I know Nathan's kind of, I think what I'm hearing from his resolution, he's kind of wanting to put some sort of, I guess, ceiling for this project in there, and I think that, although I understand where he's coming from, I think we need to be careful at limiting what we do, and we need to do it right the first time. That's all I would say.
I agree, Brian, but and maybe it's a city thing, or maybe it's the private versus government, but if you bid on a job, and I understand, especially in old parts of Jeff, you're going to dig up the street, you're going to hit stuff that nobody knows was there. So, I understand that, but when we bid a job out, and a contractor who bids the job looks at the job, and we're going to give them a contingency of 5-10%, I don't know what we give them. If they can't do that job for that amount of money, I think they ought to withdraw.
Oh, and I totally,
That's the only thing, I mean, because in the private sector, you have to go through hoops, if anything, to pay additional dollars. And to me, this is a wonderful project, and it's going to really protect our shore for our kids. That's huge. Marina's kind of a small piece of that, but I want to make sure that we put something in there, regardless of how we phase it, that states, here's a project, and if you can bid the project and go and put a dollar amount in there, 5 or 10%, whatever it may be, and if you can't do it for that, don't bid the job.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing with
That's
you.
simple.
Yeah, and I like your statement that this has turned from a marina to basically,
Shore protection.
it's a shore protection project with some boat docks along the way. So, I tend to agree with you.
I think it's very doable, and I think the $3 million, I'm not saying that can't be tweaked a little bit, I think we're close, but regardless, whoever bids this project, and I hope that when they bid it out, I don't know how you can state in there that, you bid it, it's your baby. If you can't do it, whoever writes your bids out needs to get their pencil out and sharpen it up, because we're going to hold you accountable. And if it's 5 or 10, whatever percent we allow for that contingency to go over, I understand that, because you get into things that you foresee, especially when you start digging up streets. But I just want to make sure that we hold the contractors' feet to the fire and that they deliver what we paid them to deliver.
We run into that a lot. I mean, we ran into that on Bissing Park. We run into it on almost every project we
Well,
do.
the soccer field, I think, was the first big one.
Yeah.
And we had to basically cut out the building and everything to get it, so that was the first big one I recall that we ran into. I think it's an awesome project, and again, it's all great. But I just want to make sure that we have a good dollar amount on it, and if you can do it, wonderful. If you can't do it, don't bid it. I don't know, it sounds kind of simple, but
Well,
This is typical government that
you can control that.
it's typical government that the price increases so drastically. It makes me queasy looking at this, thinking that it increased in cost $2.3 million. So I agree with you that we do need a ceiling. It's really unfortunate that we're not going to get anything like we thought we were. But like you said, we ran into this with the soccer complex as well.
And we cut back. We did
I
what
mean-
we had to do to stay in our budget.
Nathan, real quick, didn't we discuss in our meeting when we met with redevelopment? Because when you look at this rendering, there's a pretty good bit of asphalt there. Didn't we discuss possibly getting more dock space and less asphalt, and then eventually having that room to expand the asphalt? Did we discuss that? Anybody remember what the response to that would be?
I wasn't.
Because basically, when you see this, you're seeing more parking space for cars than you are for boats, and I don't think that's what we kind of intended when we set out.
I think one of the comments that was made in the redevelopment meeting, and I think I made it, is that's when this went all the way to the end, pretty much all docks, and we said, well, can we just pull it back, eliminate it back, and maybe not go as far, and I don't remember. I mean, and that's what they did with the docks, but I don't remember. And then they cut the asphalt, about a third of it out. Could they cut more out? Probably could. I don't know. And maybe that's one of those things they need to look. Redevelopment needs to look at when they know how many dollars that the council will approve for this project, not to exceed. Something like that could be pulled back, maybe. I don't know.
Because it almost looks like in this rendering, about halfway down, looks like there's a break in the wall there. I mean, why couldn't you build docks down to that and leave the rest of it unasphalted for now as green space, with the option to expand as you rent more docks and you had the demand for more?
Yeah.
Put it in
We
a
have,
phase.
regardless, we have 3 years, and if the demand's there, we can add docks. One thing you want to remember too is, without the jetty or the fishing pier or the deflector, whatever you want to call it, the whole intent of that was to protect the docks. And with that being gone, if we build, the more docks we build that are not used is subject to damage in the years to come. And this might be a good stepping stone to start here. And if the demand is there, build the docks as you go. I mean, it's not that big a deal.
It's almost you could set the piers and then build the dock space out once the piers, because that's probably going to be your most costly thing is to set the piers.
That and now the dredging.
Yeah.
That changed, I think, Lori said that was about $4 million. That was something that nobody, that's new to this project. So, but anyway, that's all I have.
Nathan, I appreciate all your work and all the emails and keeping us informed, because I literally, we had a special meeting of planning and zoning, and we thought it was one way, and then I don't get the paper, so I didn't know a phone call happened between one member and the mayor, and then everything changed. Unfortunately, I guess I didn't have a chance to put out an email to let us all know that, but I appreciate you keeping us informed. If you continue to do that, that'd be great.
Gotta read the paper, Lisa.
I don't-
Stay away from the paper.
Any other discussion on it?
I'm good.
Okay, we'll move on. Amy Deering.
I read the paper for the record.
We'll have to open up a public hearing on this, Amy.
Okay. Requesting approval of an ordinance for tax rate for 2015.
Is anybody here to speak for or against this? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
I have a question.
I know, he didn't
Stand up.
give it- maybe they're nervous.
Is anybody out there nervous and want to stand up? Public hearing is closed.
I have a question. There were some changes that I was going to propose to the budget, and you're aware of those.
Yes.
I know you. Is this the time that I need to talk about those?
I would say so, yes.
Okay. And I had basically changes in 3 areas. And first one I'll mention is in the mayor's budget, moving half of the advertising and half of the promotion. So basically leaving 3,000 advertising and 8,500 promotion, and moving that into the council line items for those. And the second thing is under Lloyd, removing the $250,000 for the police station, with the intention of having some further discussion about all these actually, but under the first reading, I want to do that, or propose that. And the third one being under edit, where we had sidewalk line item at 600,000, reducing that to 200,000. Those would be the 3 that I guess I'd make a motion to approve this. No? Okay. Then those are my suggestions.
You know, one point I want, and I'm going to just tag on to Nathan too, is when we started these sidewalk projects years ago, it was I guess a discussion or agreement that if sidewalks needed to be in an area where there was LOIC monies or TIF money or whatever the case may be, that would be, TIF money would be used for that, and areas that wouldn't be.
Inside the TIF.
Inside the TIFs.
Right.
And areas that was outside the TIFs, we would use general dollars or whatever, and we haven't got any TIF dollars for sidewalks outside. But that was kind of a gentleman's agreement I thought we had, but
So you just wanted to cut the 600,000 for sidewalks to 200,000 and
Yes.
edit, correct?
Correct.
And and then Lloyd, the 250,000, you wanted to completely take that out for the payment for the police station.
Correct. And part of the thought process on the edit, that removing or cutting back the sidewalks, is the Worley Athletic Complex that the Parks Authority wanting to go through. Well, I think the entire administration, everybody wants that to go forward. We're going to need some money to be able to pay down that so we don't have too much debt. And so we're looking at using some of this to maybe go towards that. We can use edit for that purpose. And Councilperson Z and I were talking about that, and
Well, and as you all recall, we did a lot of the sidewalk. We added quite a bit to that this year to get those projects done.
So for the 400,000 that you're removing from sidewalks, are you suggesting that we can possibly take that out of TIF in the future if need be?
if
they're in a
there
TIF district,
if they're in a
obviously.
TIF district, we would have those conversations with the redevelopment commission, that we may or may not.
So your plan is just to cut it from $600 to $200,000, period?
Leaving the 400,000 that we didn't appropriate, just leaving it in edit, and then when we need to appropriate it for, if it's a building, for Worley, if it's for sidewalks later, we could do that, but that's the plan, at least on the first reading. That was, unless somebody has another decision on second, third readings.
And the promotional for the mayor, out of the 17,000, you want to cut that to 8,500, move the other 8,500 to where?
To council promotion. With the intent of, if there's promotional items that need to take place or within the mayor's department, they just present it. Utilize that.
Amy, what do we have in our council promotion before this would be moved over to that?
$35,000.
So we would have 35 plus 8,500.
You have additional
I do.
changes?
I do. Mr. Lewis, do you have a copy of this in front of you? Can you look at page 17, please? Okay, under probation user fund, if you look to the right, they did remove some of the things we want to move, but there's still some items in probation user funds, and from that paper that I cannot release publicly, do we need to move those over to the general fund?
Yeah, well, I thought we took action at our work.
And we had, all that was supposed to be moved with the exception of the probation.
Well, but not the new, some people have to be careful, because some of that are
Right.
new requests. You're not, we voted that one where we approved the new request.
The new request was their new pay.
Back up the way the 2014 budget was.
And that's
Right.
what's happened,
That's what's reflected.
yes.
So I guess, Scott, the office supplies and all that stuff can still come out of here? That's
Well, not.
professional services?
I mean, if that was in the budget last year for
Okay.
probation services, but not for the court side, not the court office.
Do you know what it was used for?
It's for probation, yes.
Do you know what it was used for, though? I know it's
Not
for probation. Do you
offhand.
know what it was used for?
I
Because
mean,
I
not-
can say it's for probation.
Right, well, I think some of it was for a copier lease, and it had been paid out of court all year, and then based on the 5149 allocation, the rest of the year should be able to be paid out of the PUF.
Okay, well, that would not be repairs and maintenance?
Well, one of the lines, I mean, I don't know what every office
You know what
supply
the
is.
professional services, is that the part-time?
No, that would be under a 100 series.
I thought that was the part-time thing that you and I talked about. No?
I don't think so, I don't think so. It was paid out of the general fund in the
What's
court.
the professional services?
Yeah, we can look.
And it would only have to be
They could only be used for the probation officers, so.
Right,
or actual the provision of probation services.
right.
I didn't know on probation services contracts. Like, one time they were trying to use the pay attorney fees out of probation.
Right, you can't do that.
I don't know if that was what that was for.
I don't think so. No, there's no legal fee appropriation. But 2014's adopted budget was 94,195, and the proposal here is 96,694.
And that's because the up of the probation,
Right.
yeah, okay.
But we can get more detail on the expenditures.
Wait, I need to look back here. What page is the board on? Do you know what page the court is on? I just want to look at something.
It's Department 4, so it'd be at the front.
Oh, it's on the first page?
Yeah,
Right.
page 1 of 22, bottom.
I want to look at travel. Okay. Wait.
While you're looking at it, for the record, during the budget, I think, speaking for myself, I really, everything went well, and I understood the process. The courts, which I got confused by the courts. I don't know if everybody did, but I got confused, and it seemed like there was a lot of discussions that took place I couldn't follow. A lot of it had to do with PUF funds.
Right. What they could be used for.
What they're using it for, and what you can't use it for. I know that's a lot of legal issues, but that was a very confusing, but as far as I'm concerned, still is.
Tanya, were you done?
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve on the first reading, 2014 OR 51. With the
As
changes,
presented?
with the changes.
With the changes you presented?
And did you make any changes to court? I didn't think so.
She's going to
Just
check on the
clarification.
professionals.
Yeah.
She's going to check on the professionals.
Give me a roll call, please.
We don't have a second. Second.
Any other discussion?
I guess my thoughts on some of the changes, and I know, Nathan, you sent out an email today outlining the changes you were going to request. I'm not necessarily comfortable making those changes at this point because we've met 5 days on this budget and made a lot of changes already. Cutting our sidewalk funding for another project. We should have had a long discussion about that before now. I'm all for taking care of our other projects, but this doesn't seem to me to be the right time and place to be making drastic changes to, $500,000 in changes to the budget we've met on for 5 days. So I won't support those changes.
Mr. Lewis, is that a problem in the law for us to make changes?
No, you're not even required to do a budget workshop. You're only required to do
Right.
this public hearing.
I'm just checking.
Right. It's not legally an issue, but we've taken time to meet with every department head. I'm sure this has been presented to the mayor for his review and thoughts.
Right.
We spent 5 nights, 2 or 3 hours a night over the last 2 weeks going over these things. To drop in $500,000 in changes at the last night before we start voting is not acceptable.
Just
I think the last
in
night.
response,
Not the last night.
just
Before we start voting, it is.
Just in response, Councilperson Z was unable to be at these. He's a parks president, and after he learned what we did with the sidewalks, for example, the edit dollars, he asked if we could reconsider, and I said I would throw it out there because it made a lot of sense. And we came up, the council, I came up with a $600,000 figure for sidewalks. Andy didn't ask for that. He said, I can spend it, but he didn't ask for it. And we gave him $800,000 this year. So, and he's working on that. So I don't feel badly. I understand your comment, and I don't like to be surprised. That's why I didn't surprise. I sent the administration, I sent everybody emails saying what's going on, and nobody questioned me on it, there's a few that emailed me back, but that comment was not made to me privately.
Roll call.
Councilperson Smith? Councilperson Payne?
Yes.
Councilperson Sellers?
Yes.
Council Vice President Gill?
Yes.
Council President Julius?
Yes.
Councilperson Glover?
No.
Councilperson Owen?
No.
Councilperson Samuel?
Yes.
Pass on the first reading.
Okay, Amy, you're back up.
6.
We'll have a public hearing as well on this.
I believe this is a first reading on a new additional.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
October
okay.
20th, we had a public hearing.
These are 3 items requested. The first item is a beautification. That's just to appropriate cash that they already have in their funds. The second item was a request from Chief Hedrick for the CAD equipment for the fire apparatus for the 911. And the final item was a vehicle for the safety department.
Didn't the CAD come back in, is Chief Hedrick still here?
Yeah.
Didn't that CAD come back in lower, or didn't you have an exact amount? You didn't at the...
I think the amount we talked about at the Finance Committee meeting was $58,500. I got a bid today, another bid from him. It's $59,145.
You're going the wrong way.
Yeah. If we need to come down to the 58.5, built into here are some chargers and some extra batteries. Extra batteries are $80. Charger is $338. We need the chargers at each station. Then I was going to have one for the administration and for the fire marshal's office and for the battalion chief. But, that's $338 if we'd have to come down $600.
What was that quote? What was the new?
This is $59,145.
Did you make that up with what's already appropriated?
What's that?
The difference from the 58.5 to the quote.
Can I make that up? Out of my Lowit? Yeah, I've got Lowit my $600 or if that needs to be done. I hate
think
to
that
put them out
someone
$600.
else that said that there was some more money that, Nathan, did you say that? out?
Yeah, I asked a question. In the appropriations that I had, it showed, Eric, that you had, or Chief, that you had $95,000 left in your equipment line item for Lloyd.
Yes, sir.
And you're asking us to appropriate almost $60,000 more into that, to that same line item. And my preference would be to spend down, pay for it out of that, and then when you...
That money has been spent.
Something else.
That money has been, that's been spent, not all of it, but I think 25 has been set aside for overtime at our Finance Committee meeting. Station improvements, we've ordered beds and mattresses, about 12,000. We ordered some chains, we got window repairs, we got carpet at the bedroom ordered. We did the ceiling of the parking lots. None of that stuff's been paid for yet. We had to buy one set of gear out of there that was damaged. Some hose sections that were jumper hoses, deck guns. Some of that money actually went to purchase a motor for the old 500. So that money, I know it sits in there and looks at you at $95,000. We should have spent it in the first month. We tried to be kind of cautious with it, but a lot of that money is already spoken for.
I'm good with that.
And I'm sorry, I couldn't remember. I knew that it was money that had been spent, but I couldn't remember everything that you all you talked about.
Yeah.
What is the safety vehicle, the 40, is that you all or is that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No.
Where's Amir? Let's see.
Oh, that's a mirror.
Yeah, Amir has decided that he doesn't need that. No.
Oh, okay.
Shopping for it.
No, that's not me, Connie.
All right.
I think I got another thing coming up next. Is that right? Any more questions about the CAD?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, we did it at the council.
We did at the council meeting when he
I
was
make a
here.
motion to approve 2014 OR 52 on the first
and
reading
second.
and second, first and second.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Amy Darian.
Last item. This is a transfer request of items that are already in the budget, just to move to different series. These all came from the departments of fire, animal shelter, police, and planning and zoning.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
So you're doing it
That's
Thank you.
first reading?
an ordinance, what, 53?
53. Yeah, that was the first, I'm sorry.
So,
Les, are you taking Kim's?
Yes, I'm Kim.
And you're wearing lots of hats tonight.
Matt Owen first, but Halloween, you should have had a mask.
Kim's sick.
No,
Rob is sick, Kim is sick.
And it's first reading.
This is the salary ordinance which needs to be adopted by November 1 by statute, but this year November 1 is on a Saturday, so it has to be adopted by November 3rd, just as the budget has to be adopted by November 3rd as well. Kim has prepared this, or her office has. This is identical to the salary ordinance that we are currently operating under for this year. So,
Motion to approve 2014 OR 54 on the first.
No, 53.
50.
No, it's 54.
54, isn't it?
That's right, I'm sorry.
Apology accepted.
Watch it.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Now you're wearing Shane Corbin.
yes.
First.
No, he's not sick. He's just,
Get out of here.
I'm just doing him a favor. This is the ordinance that we passed back on April 8th of this year. Was a moratorium on billboards, digital billboards, and the LED signs. We are still in the process of updating that ordinance. We're sort of now that we're also, we wanted a way to do it along with our update to our master plan, the comprehensive plan. So we are requesting an extension of that moratorium for 6 months. That's currently in place. I think it's set to expire here over the next week or so. I don't believe we have to amend the ordinance. My interpretation of the ordinance would be it just simply would take a motion and a second and a majority of the council to extend that by 6 months.
So moved.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? City Council Attorney report, Scott?
I have nothing for tonight.
Department heads, did we have any? Eric?
Already had your turn.
I was asked, I think I'd sent out a staffing plan. I was approached by City Councilperson Gill for Steamboat Days. Steamboat Days, of course, I know you guys are very aware of it through the parks. Scheduled to come up here starting the 17th, I think. I put together a very skeleton crew in the way of incident management team compared to what you would see at the Thunder event that we have with the budget plan. And actually the budget plan that I have here tonight is different than the one I sent you the other night. The boat activities on Friday night, after talking to the Coast Guard, are not very many. So we took our river patrol out on Friday. So the hours on Friday are 35 instead of 50, if you guys seen that email, which would make the total for funding for that particular project of $5,211. Again, that is an estimate. We don't know who's going to work in those spots. I think it's a pretty accurate estimate using the average overtime pay, but it should be very close to that. That is for all 3 days. That amounts for all 3 days. That would be Friday night, Saturday, and then Sunday up to about 5 p.m. These are not the complete hours of the event. It's the high traffic hours. It is the majority of the event. But I didn't know if you guys had any questions about what that staffing would be doing, how they would be acting, or why they would be there.
Are we going to have yellow?
The Yellow Ambulance has been contacted. They'll be at the command post for the same hours that we're there.
Okay, great.
And so we'll be using the Clark County Emergency Command Vehicle. They have an RV. Preservation Station's being used as like the city command post, but it's more maybe also like a Parks Hospitality, possibly be a little loud in there. So our operation will actually be running from the trailer, which will be outside. The State Fire Marshal's office will be there assisting our fire marshals going through all the vending booths like they do for Thunder. We'll have air support, air methods, EMS in case we got to get somebody out of there real quick, and a hell of a spot set up for that. But didn't know if you guys had any questions. It's not going to be the Thunder where you see the National Guard and those folks down there. We're not going to involve all those people at this time, but types of incidents that might require an incident management team at an event like that. Car in the crowd, like they had at Madison Regatta. One of the rides malfunction. I think there's going to be rides, aren't there, for kids and things? No. I think there's a rock wall or climbing wall. Yeah. But, any sort of those, we certainly hope none of that stuff happens. We don't want an active shooter or chemical release or anything like that. It's my business, I guess, to worry about those things. But I just wanted to make my recommendation for staffing to the council as what I feel is my responsibility to do in the way of protection for that event. But like I said, I don't know if there's any action needed or not.
Chief Hedrick, I just want to publicly thank you. I called you, and I know I called you multiple times for working with me on this. I appreciate it. You did a great job.
But that's all. Any questions about that? Nope. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Was there any other public comment?
No.
Yeah, there wasn't anything else.
No, there wasn't
Okay.
anything else.
Mr. Smith?
I understand, and I don't know if y'all heard this, early on in Steamboat days, that one of the steam boats were going to be tied on the Indiana Bank.
Yeah, that's not happening.
What happened with that?
They forced that. First of all, we had to see. But if that happened, you're right. $40,000 more, and they would not commit to the long term. So we just want to basically at one time and we would be out for ourselves. See what we're get along.
Right.
Plus, there was a change of some management with Steamboat.
Yeah, it is. Councilperson Payne?
No comment.
Councilperson Sellers?
I'm sorry. I just have one thing. I'll try to make it quick, and it's actually directed at Scott or Les, either one. I was talking to Amir, and he was one, and that's the reason I brought up the insurance stuff about the booths. Scott, I had a question for both of you, and this is something totally different.
She's drifting.
Booths. The guy on the bridge who was painting, has that been...
I pulled off, you asked me to pull that off, I pulled off the ordinance that we passed back in June about establishing rules and regulations for ramp. It only really addresses, like basically prohibiting pets, skateboards, inline skates, motorized vehicles, allow service animal bikes, service vehicles, so that was more like transportation type things. But the guy that was doing the artwork, the question is, and I'm not sure if Google was more either, was he actually in the process of selling?
He was not selling.
Because we actually, because I talked to Les, we actually have an ordinance regulating the door-to-door solicitation in transient merchants. So if we read that on the transient merchants, if he was like selling, trying to produce and sell the artwork up on the ramp, and it would be subject to transient merchants.
He was not selling. And according to what I was told by the...
Yeah, so I know I talked to you about this, Connie's viewpoint was, like I said, if he was trying to sell, the merchants, transient merchants covers that, about the license and then...
Has he been back, Connie?
He was back one other night.
So this is something we may want to do, that if he was up there
spray painting,
that is specifically not on or
This is something that the police, because what he did was, he was evidently spray painting one night, and they said, you're going to damage it, because he was right up against the rails, and they said, you're going to get paint everywhere. So then he came back the next night, and he had tarps, and he put tarps over the railing and down underneath. So what we probably need to do is just say, people can't do that, can't block, can't hide visually from down, we've got to come up with something.
And one thing I think we need to do is we have to make sure that this is in coordination with the policies, right?
He was from Kentucky. He said that the people on the Indiana side need to know what art was.
Well.
I believe that was the quote that I got.
Insulted.
We'll show him.
Spray painting. Yeah. I don't know. I've seen him.
We'll show him.
In Cancun where they could spray
Ordinance
paint.
him right out of here.
Introduce him to Nathan.
I just think we need to be careful, because if we had several people up there who were doing that and not selling anything, that blocks traffic.
Yeah, like one of
I wasn't there, so I don't know.
I mean, that would clarify the terms of that. I mean, I have a hard time believing this guy just wants to.
Do you know?
Well, the thing is, with the tarp, with the wind, I mean, you talk about
Hazard.
that would be a hazard, but it wouldn't take a little gust of wind, blow the tarp, I mean, that would be an issue.
Well, but because if he wasn't technically selling it, he was kind of advertising his art services, I mean, that is contained in this crazy.
Well, that's not what I've said before, because I voted in favor of this, but I asked the question, if someone's up there playing an instrument and they're soliciting donations, would that be allowed? And he said, yes, they're not selling anything, they're not actually selling a product. So that would be okay.
Well, that's music, but we're talking about art.
Yeah, but if he's not selling the product, if he's just putting on a show, that'd be the same thing as entertainment.
Well, what I'm saying is, if he's soliciting for a business, like it's not an artist, not a business, which.
Yeah, but then a musician can do that as well. If they also have a CD that they can sell online on the bridge playing music. So we're just gonna limit.
Well, but
Spray painters.
But what I'm saying, I don't know.
Spray painting's not probably a good thing to have on the
Specific, like advertising specific artwork for a specific price versus just a musician. Like he's not advertising shirts or CDs or whatnot. There's a distinction.
I guess we already know that answer.
My question is, do we need something, because it could get, it's just one person this year, it's probably not a big deal, but I can foresee a problem in the future with it blocking.
Well,
No,
why
I
don't we
don't
just say
want
no
to.
paint on the bridge?
Well,
How did the police, Jason, how did you all handle that? Do you know?
Jason.
Or Josh?
I spoke with, I was doing security down there.
Oh,
He's up there, to my knowledge, he's not charging. And I spoke with Rob Waits, he stopped us on the way up there. Said, hey, we don't want him up there, but we'd love for him to come to our side when it opens to show his artwork off. That's the only, so he, actually the day that he told me to say something to him, he wasn't there that day. I don't know if you handled anything different.
I'm not familiar with this.
Yeah, to my knowledge, he wasn't charging anything. He had to take
Well, maybe he won't come back.
he's been there too. Several times, actually. Anyway, now my next question is about insurance. Amir said that when we have the booths set up, how, does our city cover their insurance? And what if they're small mom and pop and they don't have insurance? Are they covered by the city, or is that covered by the clause that's in the contract where they are solely responsible and they cannot hold the city liable?
Booths like steamboats.
Or any booths, but yeah, the steamboat. He was wondering if we needed to do something about the insurance.
I don't see those contracts. I don't think they're contracts.
I think I saw some where they do have the contract in there where their city cannot be held liable, but I don't know how.
My advice would be is that they have to provide insurance.
Yeah, hold harmless indemnity.
Oh, harmless, that's one.
Yeah, they don't have insurance to hold harmless indemnity.
And would that cover everything? I mean,
Well,
If it's written.
we're gonna get sued anyway.
We have that contract.
Everybody's gonna get sued.
Yeah, exactly.
Figure back to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can word it broad enough where they assume on liability.
Can you check those contracts? I mean, they're already signed, so.
None of those contracts are in by.
Yeah.
Well, we've asked them to be run by you numerous times.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Attorneys, letters or me, we need to look at.
And really, that's not parks because it's downtown. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really not parks. So can you get those in check? I mean, not that it's going to do any good now, but
Who does it?
it's a big question.
Can I ask a quick question? Should I not have copies of those contracts? I don't have copies of any of the contracts.
Probably Sarah.
I mean, I don't have parks contracts, and I don't have any of these contracts.
Either the Parks Authority or Board of Public Works needs to approve
Exactly, you need a contract and authority to
Yeah.
approve these. You talked about that before.
That's how we got into that one issue with the alcohol.
Yeah, but it can't be like it's an individual department head, it's not a contract.
We have made mention of that numerous times. That's all I can say. Okay, I'm done. Sorry.
Ms. Gill?
Well, they are actually here. I wanted to publicly thank the FOP for graciously giving us our tickets to your all's fundraiser. It was a very well-attended event, and the food was excellent. Y'all did a wonderful job. Thank you for thinking of us, and I was glad to attend. And also, of course, Les isn't chit-chatting with Scott. Les, I know we've talked about it several times, but I see now we have some sort of a locksmith thing that opened up in the old Butternut building. Can we just kind of maybe start having some meetings or some talks about the business licensing. I mean, we don't really have control over what goes in other people's buildings, but I'd kind of like to know what businesses are coming here into the city. Can we do that, please?
Yeah, I
Great.
thought that we,
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Councilperson Glover?
I don't have anything, no.
Councilperson Owen?
Ms. Gill stole my thunder. I was going to thank the FOP also for those tickets. That was a great event. I know, I need to sit down there and the empty
Well,
chair.
actually, you can thank them too.
Then I also wanted to thank Mr. Samuel for, he did send out his changes this morning in an email, and I didn't get a chance to respond to him beforehand. But I still stand by my statement, 5 days to work on this budget. And the last day, we're making $500,000 in changes. I think if the request had been to cut $400,000, out of sidewalks to pay for the marina, there would have been a very different reaction on this council. And then also cutting promotional dollars in half, for the mayor. So we have more oversight. We have oversight as it is. We have policies in place that dictate what those promotion dollars can be spent on. And then we also approve those claims after they're, after he goes out to use those promotional dollars. So that didn't make sense to me either. That's all.
Councilperson Samuel?
I just wish Councilperson Smith happy birthday today. We would have had a party if I would have known ahead of time.
Today.
That's all you got?
That's all I got.
Oh, my gosh.
I have more I want to say. I'm good.
The only thing I was going to say is we had our first meeting with the insurance committee, which is a combination of civil city employees, fire and police, and then we appointed 2 people that we agreed on with the administration, and then we had 2 council people. It was a good meeting, went about 2 hours, and I think in the long run, we will bring some recommendations to save the city a little bit of money on insurance. So, food for thought. Motion to adjourn.